brag about.
As far as our passion, as far as the wrestling business.
Woo! It's coming!
You've been off of WWE's radar for quite a while, and then they gave you a phone call about becoming a member of the 2005 Hall of Fame. Do you remember the first phone call you got? And,
It's from Jim, God. I've been hitting the head way too many times. Oh, shoot. The announcer out of Oklahoma.
Jim Ross.
Ross. Jeez. Sorry, Jim, if you're watching. But, yeah, he called me up and asked me if I wanted to be involved in everything. And well, I said, that'd be great. What an honor. And then he told me what I was going to make. And you know what? As we were talking, I was thinking, well, hell, this would be great. Go out there, I'd never even thought about it. And he told me, well, yeah, that'll be okay. But no, it was a great phone call to get.
It ended up that you ended up working for him for about a year. Was that first phone call?
5 or 6 months. No. It was just something I think Randy and Laurinaitis had got together and thought of a way to get me back involved for a little while. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Undertaker was approached too, but I don't know.
The class that you were inducted in is still regarded as like the most prestigious class with Hogan, Piper, and Orton.
Well, sure. That was WrestleMania 1.
Right.
Pretty much everybody was on one.
Everybody who took WWE where it is today and started with WrestleMania 1 was part of that class.
Well, thank you.
That's a the whole WrestleMania experience is phenomenal, and they do everything first class. Do you have any memories of just the whole week leading up to the Hall of Fame and probably getting to see a lot of the guys that you hadn't got to see?
Oh, yeah, I hadn't got to see in a long time. My wife was out with me. It was fantastic. My dad come down, and little sister Rhonda was there with Dad. So, yeah, we just had a blast. Had a lot of fun. They put us up at a very nice hotel, and we didn't need a car or anything. They took us everywhere you wanted to go. It was just a great weekend.
Was that the first time you had got to experience the WrestleMania experience that the family and the friends do, or did you already see that earlier? Because they've been doing that for about 10 years now, where the family gets the first class treatment and puts up in the hotels. And
I went to one that Morocco got inducted in. Maybe that was a couple of years before me or something like that. And had a great time up there. But I was up there doing something else. And the show just happened, so I went. And yeah, it was great. A lot of fun.
Whose decision was it to bring you back as a character? Your son was involved with the feud with The Undertaker.
Well, I would think probably Vince. As far as I'm concerned, Vince is probably, he was and I would think still is the last word.
Mm-hmm. And that started in March of that year, and then the whole thing that you were on TV throughout the entire rest of the year. It was
pretty much.
Months. Was it all a night-to-night basis, or did they at some point decide, Bob, we have an idea that's going to carry you in through the rest of the year?
Yeah, they just brought me in for TVs for a while, and then somebody must have had the idea or something. I wasn't involved in any of the thinking process, and boom, 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 and then all of a sudden here we go with Undertaker, and it brought back a lot of memories. But you just can't do yesterday's stuff with today's body. Although I tried.
I was just saying, you're in semi-retirement. You've come out of retirement to do some matches here and there. But how taxing was that on your body, the things you had to do for WWE?
Well, not really bad at all, because I didn't do a whole lot as far as ring time. But the travel really, really wears. Mm-hmm. I didn't remember how brutal the travel could be. Ooh. I was just beat.
And talk about how WWE has changed from when you were, a headliner back in the 80s,
mm-hmm.
Into the company, the corporate structure that it's grown into today. Was it a different feeling being backstage? Had everything changed?
Well, yeah, we got pizza, and now they've got a lunch buffet. We popped each other's backs. Chiropractors now, doctors, masseuses. They've got a seamstress. They've got everything. It's like a little town when you come in there.
Right.
Yeah.
What about your thoughts on Stephanie McMahon? She was just a young girl when you were working actively, and
Stephanie's sharp. She's a sharp gal, and very, very nice, very polite. But she's a businesswoman. You can kind of tell.
But just your overall general thoughts of working with Undertaker.
He's fantastic. The guy is. People believe everything he does. He's one of the top stars for many, many years now.
One rumor thing that they released you after they did all this stuff was because of the hepatitis C.
Right. I had hepatitis when I was 19 years old, and my body beat it. So I've got the antibody, I guess that's what it would be called, the antibody. Mm-hmm. And although I had been working for 30 years, they seem to take that pretty seriously. I myself can't give somebody something I don't have, but I can understand where people would be very upset and everything about that. Whatever Undertaker thinks is fine with me. I don't care. I know that I worked for 30 years and drank enough beer to float a ship, and my liver's still normal, so I'm really not worried about it at all. But like I say, I was wrong, and shit happens, but I split my head open on the cage and figured, what the hell. But
was part of it that you went against, because I don't think they had asked you to go that far.
Okay.
Getting color, and did you take that on your own initiative to do that?
No, that's when Randy hit the cage and I was holding Taker, and the cage hit my head and split me open.
Okay. And did Undertaker kind of freak out immediately after that, or?
No, I think no, not really. We're back there in the back, and I just told him, hey, for 30 years I've been doing this, and there hadn't been no problems. I don't have the virus, and like I said, if I don't have it, I can't give it to you. And it's something I've been doing for 30 years without one bitten problem, anywhere. Hell, I forgot about it. It's one of them things where I went to the doctor. He said, there's no cure, but your body might beat it. Mm-hmm. A week later, I was back in the gym drinking beer. So I think I've got a very, very strong immune system. It seems like I've been told from doctors and stuff before. The hepatitis thing, I'd actually forgot all about it. It was nothing to me. It was like if you had a cold and you was down for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. That's what it did to me. So
it just became a bigger deal than it should have really become.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. I would say that those folks who have no knowledge of like I told I asked my doctor, the specialist I went to in St. Louis, can I give this to anybody since I don't have it? Well, we're not really sure. I said, could I cure somebody who had it? Well, we're not really sure. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Because they just don't know. There's been no test done. I said, well, for 30 years I've been your subject. Because like I said, I never even thought about that. It was nothing more to me than having a cold.
WrestleManias, the 1s, the 2s, and 3s. Randy was just a young kid, and it's kind of neat to see now he's one of the biggest stars in our business. I know that must make you proud as a father.
Oh, gosh, yes.
To see the success that he's had. How early on did you know that Randy wanted to be part of the wrestling community?
Oh, he wrestled through school, and I used to take him to the matches with me when he was young, and I always thought he might, but then he decided to join the Marines. And when I saw Stallone out in Los Angeles, I wanted to go tell him this story, but I never got the chance. You know, everybody's always around. I didn't want to bother nobody, but I said, Randy, what in the hell do you want to be a Marine for? He goes, Dad, haven't you ever seen Rambo? What am I going to say to that? But then after that was over, he decided he wanted to turn pro, and I introduced him to Jack Lanza in St. Louis. He was still in school, so they waited till May and took him to OVW, and the rest is history.
Early in his career, he had a stigma of being kind of a troublemaker. Do you think that maybe he had too much success before he really matured?
Oh, you know, that could be part of it, sure. The travel and everything, plus the success, and plus you get that feeling of like you're invincible and can do no wrong. You know, I think all those things, but he got married maybe 3 years ago, and his wife's a wonderful lady, Sam, and they got a little girl now that'll soon be 2. Probably when this airs, she will be 2, and he's settled himself right down, and what a fine young man.
And early on, he was named in the Sports Illustrated steroid scandal. As a father, were you ever concerned about his well-being? Because you know the dangers, being yourself a veteran, the dangers and the perils and the risks that you sometimes take.
Yeah, I don't think Randy ever did the roids. I think he might have experimented just a little bit with them, but I don't think he ever really did the roids, you know. Now, he might have just not said anything to me.
Well, he was mentioned in the Sports Illustrated.
But I know the Sports Illustrated ad, he was mentioned, but only because he had dealings with that doctor. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was steroids for Randy and that doctor. I think it might have been pain pills after his shoulder injury or something. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Roy, but he was on the doctor's list, so naturally they're going to name him.
And you admittedly went through a period of time where you were taking some pain pills to get through some of the pain and the injuries that you had. But I guess I don't know if it's a question or maybe just trying to you're a father and you've been there, you've seen that.
Yeah, been there, done that, and don't want to go. Don't want to do it anymore. But I talk about pain pills. When my neck finally went, they want to put a titanium plate in it and everything. But I've got these exercises I do, and I have no more pain. I've got a lot of strength back in my left tricep and everything. I can do 80-pound dumbbells on the incline now like they're nothing. But when I first noticed this, I went to the gym and I got on the tricep machine. I hadn't worked out in a few years. Got on the tricep machine, and I go, boom. That one didn't move. So I go, well, must be hung up on something. So I went around and I looked, and looked good, and I pushed the thing. Shit, I got back on there, but I had to go all the way down to 5 pounds before I could even move it. Not long after that, and I think because I started working out again, it got aggravated, and I started getting a real bad pain behind my shoulder blade. Kept thinking it was my shoulder. But, yeah, I mean, it got really bad. I was taking 12 to 15 Vicodins a day and drinking about a case of Heineken. I would go to bed and sleep maybe an hour, hour and a half, and that pain would wake me up again. I finally, I think I better go to the doctor. And I went, and they wanted to put the plate in and everything, but like I said, I learned the exercises, and now the pain is gone, a lot of strength's back. Now there's fellas I've seen that have had the operations that some are good, but some it doesn't do that good a job for. So as long as I'm out of pain, they're not touching me with a knife.
Right.
But you know, if I need it next time, at least I'll know, and I'll say, okay, it's time to slice her open.
Do you think the issues with the alcohol and the pills and stuff is the situation today any worse than it was back when?
I think
you were
Vince has made it much better. I don't think guys are as dependent. You might still have a few, but I think guys have finally realized, it takes a lot of years of guys dropping dead here or there, and everywhere, but I think it's finally sunk in, and guys realize that it's not only not good, it's not necessary. You can work through the pain and stuff, but you got to take care of yourself, and that's the bottom line. So,
what are some of the changes that Vince has made to basically make it easier for guys today than it was for you?
Well, I think schedule. If they don't have an overseas tour, they've got a couple 3 days that they're home a week. Where I used to fly home in the morning and fly out in the afternoon. We'd wrestle 90, 100 day, 110 days, sometimes twice on Saturday and Sunday, and never get home, but now it's kind of a set schedule, except for when they go overseas, and then, that keeps them home, or keeps them away from home a little longer, but basically they got a great schedule now. And like I say, he's got the doctors back there, the masseuse, the chiropractor, and everything. So you got a lot of on-site help, which we didn't have, in my day. They've really, it's big time, really big time. So it's great.
Which you've lost a lot of friends of yours in the business. Was there anybody's death that may have really hit you hard, stuck out for you?
Well,
I don't want to. List the 20 or 30 guys that have passed away.
Yeah, last week we did an autograph signing in St. Louis, and Jack was supposed to be there. And but a couple months before, the thing, he was already signing and everything, but he passed away. And it was a shock when Adrian went, and Kurt Hennig, such a good kid, I mean, hey, a lot of guys have shocked me, but I think Adrian was probably the biggest shock. We were supposed to go to Japan maybe a week or so after that happened, and I got the call that he wouldn't be going. And of course, my father passed away a couple years ago, which was, I figured he'd outlive me, long. You just never know.
Do you think if what Vince has put into his program now, the wellness program, was part of what you did, back in your heyday? Do you think a lot of these deaths would have been avoided?
It's still up to the individual, but I just think guys are getting a lot smarter, and I think Vince has made them a lot more aware of the problems you can have. Every year I get a letter in the mail. If I want to go to, I don't know if you'd call it rehab, but these places where you go, I guess it is rehab, then I can go to anyone I want at their expense, and they send those out to everybody. So no, he's doing his best to make sure there's no problem, and that's for the older guys too, that definitely aren't around anymore, but he gives you that opportunity, if you want to take it, you can. Of course, now that I'm straight, I just drink a few beers every once in a while. I don't need to go. But I'm sure some guys have taken advantage of that offer.
Do you follow wrestling a little more because your son is still involved? Or?
Yeah, I didn't really watch there for a long time. There for a while I got homesick when I watched, and then whenever I would flip it on, they went through different phases, like the clown phase and all that. I didn't get into, but then when Randy started, naturally I started watching again. Boy, what a show. It's the greatest show on earth. Get to see a little bit of everything.
Do you watch every week now?
When Randy, yeah, sure. Sure, and then SmackDown during the commercials, ball game or something, whatever I'm watching, I'll flip over and just see what's going on. But I'm getting into watching a little bit now, just enjoying it.
As a father, is Randy better than his dad yet?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He took what he learned from me and what he's learned from the guys that he wrestled with and turned that into a pretty class act. And Randy, with that evolution thing, you're there with Flair and Hunter. How can you not learn? Mm-hmm. So he had, and then John and Brock, Dave and Randy all came up from Louisville at the same time. Boy, what a bunch of talent, coming at that one time. They've all done very, very well. Brock, of course, went to the MMA, but Randy, John, and Dave are pretty much the cornerstone, right now, I would think.
You didn't take a really hands-on approach to Randy learning about the wrestling business. A lot of fathers, Rick took his sons and has kind of like tried to bring them in the business. Ricky Steamboat watched his kid closely in the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. You let a lot of other people. You let Randy learn from a lot of other people.
Yeah, I taught him the basics, just the basics. And St. Louis, there, South Broadway Athletic Club has some pretty good guys down there. Gary Jackson and Ron Powers and Randy'd work out with them at the time. I'm pretty sure I was going through all my neck problems, so I didn't actually get in the ring with him much, just little things here and there. But we'd talk, and then we'd watch a little bit. And then he went to Louisville and got down there with Danny Davis, I think, and Jim Cornette, and Benjamin, gosh darn that guy was down there too. But anyway, there was a lot of talent down there with a lot of guys who had a lot of knowledge of the business when those guys started or went to that school or camp or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And so, they couldn't help but learn. But Randy, the basics, I kind of taught him and the psychology a little bit. But of course, you never really get that stuff until you get in the ring and do it and see how folks react when you do this and when they, it's a process.
Is he still learning, or is he pretty much picked up everything he's going to pick up?
He better still be learning. But now, if I want to know something, I call him. No,
Randy's a third generation, so you yourself, you saw your father
mm-hmm.
being a wrestler. You came into the business. Now you followed Randy's career. Wrestling's always been known as a cyclical business, up and down, and a lot of people will say it won't be here. It's going to go the way of roller derby. Do you think
we've been saying that for 100 years.
Do you think MMA has posed a real threat to the longevity of pro wrestling?
It's different. They're different things. They're completely different. MMA would probably be a younger crowd who like to see brutality. But I think wrestling is good for anybody who wants to see a show and want to be entertained. Like I said, they've got they make you happy, they make you sad. You go through every emotional range. It's you go to the movies, last couple, it's like going to a good movie. If the show's done right, and up there it is.
Why have you never been more involved in WWE, like behind the scenes stuff? It seems like you created.
Oh, I don't know that stuff back. I've never been.
You don't think that a lot of stuff come back there you could contribute?
Nah, they got plenty of guys who can do that. Yeah, no interest.
Okay. A lot of guys like The Rock and Steve Austin, they parlayed a very successful WWE career into a great acting situation. Can you see your son Randy maybe leaving wrestling one day? And
you never know. I know he's got a little part in a movie coming out with with Ed Harris, and I believe it comes out next year. But those things, you know, time again will tell. You know, who knows? You never know. You might have the next Rock Hudson, and you know, who knows? And at the same time, you might not ever do anything else in the movie. You just never know. Because those things, you know, breaks happen, and if you take advantage of the break, then there you go.
The stereotype is that wrestling in the Crockett era, you know, the Floridas, that you had to do a lot more work than you did when you had to work for New York. Did you find that to be the case?
No, I worked pretty much the same way. It didn't matter where I was. I did the same things and worked the same way. Maybe that was my problem. But no, I used to have a lot longer matches in the South. Sometimes New York had so many matches on the card that you couldn't go, you know, 10, 12, you know, down there where you're going a half hour, 45 minutes. And I think that was maybe the difference there.
Do you remember we were talking about Piper and the amount of heat that he generated being a fantastic heel. Did you sense that he was as good of a heel in the South as he was when he became nationally known for what he
I think he did really well in Atlanta. Now, I didn't hook up with Roddy till we got to Charlotte. And that one must have been 83. But he seemed to be doing just fine down there, too. You know, he was just talented. You can't hide that talent. You know, if you give it a chance to get out there, it will get out. And Roddy's flourished. He was very, very good. Boy, what a talker. Rhodes and Piper and King Curtis the Ikea were probably three of the best I ever heard on the mic. God, them guys were good. And Rhodes, you know. And of course Hogan. But still, I just think Roddy would change. You know, one interview would be one way, one. You know, it wasn't the same thing every time. And so would Dusty. You know, moods would change, and he like acted. And, I mean, it was fantastic. But some guys, you know, and I was in that too. You know, same interview every time. But the guys who could switch them up and still not be out of character, those are the classic promo guys.
Did you ever have an opportunity to work against Charlie Race?
You know, I'm sure I did. I think I did way back in the late 70s, maybe. I don't think I worked with him in the 80s. But I think in the 70s a couple of times. But not very often, no. No.
You were one of the few individuals that was part of Starrcade '83, and how important that was, the centerpiece of the Crockett promotion, and then WrestleMania 1. The launching pad for New York.
Yeah.
What brought you from the Crockett family in the South to New York?
Well, I'd already been in New York, and I left New York, and I guess 82 or 3. I went to Charlotte, but I think I told you earlier. You know, you get spoiled in New York, not spoiled in any sense of other than you're treated with respect. If you go out there and you perform and you do your work, everybody likes you, you work hard, there come a few people, and they build on that. To whereas when you go to the NWA with the cliques, if they don't want you over, the better you get, the more they try to squash you. And that's the difference. So, believe me, when I was in Charlotte, I just kept waiting for the call to go back to New York. That's what I was doing. I finally got the call. This is right after this thing with Race and Flair and Dickie. And Valentine was not involved actually with us, but was there. But anyway, I'm supposed to work with Flair every night for a month. And I think Roddy might have been working with Valentine, Roddy or Dickie, one of the two. But anyway, I knew I was going back to New York, and I snatched Flair. I said, I got him on his back. I said, Flair, I'm sorry, but Vince wants me to beat you. And then I just laughed and I turned him loose. Well, the next night, it was me and Valentine, and either Piper and Dickie and Flair. Flair wouldn't work with me anymore. But the rib backfired. Because Flair gives you them chops that just stings. Valentine has these little bitty hands that are that thick. He's like hitting you with a club every time he smacks. So the rib backfired. But anyway, wouldn't take it back because it was funny.
Just a clarification. When you say that you're never part of cliques, are you talking about like in terms of certain wrestlers? Are part
Yeah,
of
we'd
clique
get together like in Atlanta. They had Flair and Sting and the other big guy, and they get this little group of guys. They don't want anyone else to penetrate that. They want to be on. Even though they weren't drawing a dime anywhere, they still wouldn't give anybody a chance to go and improve themselves and draw money. They would see you were getting over, they would take that opportunity to make themselves look better than you somehow, whether it be behind the doors or when you go to the ring. And although they couldn't mess with me in the ring, they could definitely mess with the outcome, which in turn makes them look better than you. And so in their little pea brains, they think that matters. Unfortunately, if no one's there to see it, it don't really matter. Mm-hmm. But that's the shit you got to put up with down there. And I'm just saying that I never liked that kind of thing. I just thought these guys. I had my friends and stuff, but I don't care who you were. When I went in the ring with you, I was going to make you as much as I could, and you should do the same for me. Mm-hmm. They did not have that philosophy. Mm-hmm. And I always was not real patient with folks. When I sell stuff like that, I just say, give me a beer.
I know you can't speak for him. Do you think Slater kind of felt the same way?
Oh, Dickie didn't care too much about him. Dickie was one of the best. I hear he's in real bad shape now and might even be in a wheelchair, although I couldn't swear to that. I've not seen him in years. But I was talking to somebody last week from Tampa, said they seen him in a wheelchair not too long ago, which is a shame. But boy, what a talent.
So you went back to New York, and again, the timing was amazing because this is right when...
That's when Roddy did the thing with Jimmy and the coconut, and so they felt like Roddy should have a bodyguard, and there I was, and there we went.
And was this your first time working where Junior took over? Were you, the last time were you working for Senior?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Senior, the first time in. The second, Senior passed away right about the time that all this stuff was taking place too. With seemed like it all happened just about at the same time because Junior would not go nationwide and go against everybody like he did, because Dad didn't want him to do that out of respect for the other promoters, I think, and Junior just saw that bigger picture.
As a wrestler working for Junior at that time, did you have any concern about maybe the consequences of crossing over some of those territorial lines?
I don't know exactly what you mean.
Well, Vince Jr. went into to other people's territories, and back then it was just a rule like,
I don't know if he wanted them as much as he just went in and took them. But I don't. He didn't run the same night as the other guy, and he didn't put his show on and preempt theirs. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just wanted to expand. It's like if you got a Shell station and the guy wants to put an Amco down the street. It's the same thing, the exact same thing. He just wanted to expand, and he did. Now, if the other folks would have put up a fight, they'd still be there, I guess. But that just didn't happen because he bowled them over, and I think the reason is because of his talent. And we got the job done.
What kind of physical condition were you in when you were Roddy Piper's bodyguard? Were you still? Was the back still giving you a lot of trouble?
My back used to go out 2-3 times a year. But that, come after I actually got out of the wrestling business. While I was wrestling and everything, after Charlotte and they got it fixed up, it seemed to be pretty, it'd go once in a while, but not very often. I always kind of tried to watch it a little bit. I don't think my bumps were as big or impressive as they had been before that. But, no, I was in pretty good shape back then. I could go.
Could you feel the momentum that WWE was building when you returned as the bodyguard, and could see what they were building to with the first WrestleMania, that this was going to be the first national product? What your father had mentioned would inevitably happen.
Yeah.
So you knew you for sure you were on the cusp of it.
Sure seemed like it. Hogan was just hot as he could be, and then Vince brought in people from other walks of life, and Cyndi Lauper, Mr. T. I think Liberace rang his little bell. Muhammad Ali was there. Yeah, they went all out. Big time. And yes, you could feel it in the air. When you walked in these places and every place was sold out. Yeah, hell yeah, you could tell.
Had you been in a territory that had been that hot up to that point?
Oh, maybe Florida for a little while, and Carolinas for a while was pretty hot and stuff, but no, nothing like this.
But in that particular match with Snooki, you did legitimately break your arm, which is the reason it was put in a cast.
Okay.
Is that true?
Huh?
Was that true?
Certainly. Then, something happened that night where I hit the post with my arm, I think, when I ran down on Hogan or something, and then maybe I wrestled Jimmy later, and I remember it was really hurting, and I had to go back out, or maybe it was vice versa, but Snooker did something, and I went to block, and he chopped that thing, and I knew something was wrong. But I just never knew it was.
But was the cast put on your arm originally because of the injury, or?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm not sure Bob's telling the whole truth here. It's a shoot interview. We'll let his face tell the story. Talk about some of the memories you had of the promotional efforts leading up to WrestleMania. That this was not just a wrestling show. This was with an entertainment product, getting Cyndi Lauper involved.
Yeah, we had a press conference, I remember, with Hogan and Mr. T, and I remember Roddy was really getting on him. Now, Mr. T, I guess, couldn't take it, and he just ran and tackled Roddy right off the stage onto the floor. And I reached over there and grabbed him, pulled him off of Roddy. Seemed like they were both upset. So I think that that there probably was a little bit of friction there, which is cool. You know, it just helps helps the program. But no, they did a lot of things, you know, like that I'd never really, you know, like the conferences, press conferences. Funniest one I ever had was in India. I got Tiger Jeet Singh, he's like a god over there. He's like, you know, your Hogans or your Cenas or your Ortons or whatever. And I'm going to slap him and knock him off the chair. So the guy's got the camera just like that camera is right there. And I turned around and I slapped that Tiger Jeet Singh. He dropped off on the floor, and I turned around like this to that camera. And about 20 of them Indian guys pulled them rifles up, and I just went just like this. Get up. Oh, Lordy. For 19 days, they walked me to and from the ring, surrounded with rifles pointed at me. Yeah, it was great. And I'd say things like, you could point that up at the sky just in case it went off or something, or maybe at the ground. You don't have to point it at my chest. And they just smile with them. Oh, boy.
Was it that tour where you wrestled in front of the largest crowd?
Boy, there were some big crowd. There were some soccer stadiums there and stuff, and like one end of the soccer stadium would be open, and you could see people as far as you could see, you know, out there, and places would just be just massive amounts of people. It was just unreal. But anyway, the WrestleMania thing, yeah, they did a lot of extra stuff, I think newspaper stuff, and because of who was involved, I think the media had a lot of fun with it too. So I think we got a lot of press probably that wasn't even paid for. Which, but you know, it was one of the biggest things ever, as far as the wrestling business goes. And what have they done now? 25 or 6?
26.
And it doesn't seem like they're slowing down any.
There was a rumor that they had complications on coming up with a finish that everybody was happy with in WrestleMania 1. Do you have any perspective on
I
that?
wouldn't be involved in that.
No.
Nah, they just, you know. No, I wouldn't have been involved in that. I could see where there might be some ego issues, but I wasn't involved in it.
Following up from WrestleMania, you were in the main event against Hogan in the Saturday Night Main Event.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any distinct memories of working one-on-one with Hogan?
Yeah, I think we had a really good match. I believe Roddy got involved, and that was the first Saturday Night Main Event. I knew it was an honor to be in the main event with Hogan on that show. You know, it made me feel good. I said, wow, you know, they think a lot of me, or I wouldn't be there. So, yeah.
The idea to keep the cast on your arm, do you think that was... I think you ended up using that for nearly 2 years.
Yeah, and I should have kept it on, too, because still when it gets cold, I have problems with my arm.
How about your memories of working in the boxing match with Mr. T?
I just remember when it was over, I was walking down the hall, and I had a beer in each hand. And I walked by Mr. T's dressing room, and he was sitting there breathing in oxygen. I seen him, and he goes, "Hey, you want some?" I said, "No, I'm good." He just laughed, went back to his oxygen. But he got a pretty good punch, and I felt him a couple times. It's cool.
How about any memories of Cyndi Lauper?
You know, I never really was involved with that too much. I think Roddy wanted to keep me away from Cyndi. There was that Wolf guy there, I think her boyfriend. I think he wanted to keep me away from Cyndi because I think she was kind of hot on it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I couldn't blame her.
great heel from in your era to now? Has a lot changed in terms of being a successful heel?
Well, I was with Roddy last weekend, and then of course my dad and the great Malenko, you know, they had a night in Richmond, Virginia, where they were with the Scott brothers and lost both falls, you know, 2 falls in a row. The people sliced Malenko all the way around his body. They hit Dad with a chair and knocked him out. Somebody come out with a gun, and they got him in the ambulance. They tried to turn the ambulance over. Roddy and myself was trying to leave Baltimore one night. And usually we didn't go on last. But for some reason that night we were last, and we didn't wait long enough for the crowd to disperse. And when you leave that building, you drive up this big ramp, and then boom, you're on the street. They open the garage door. Nobody's up there. Well, when we got to the top of that hill, must have been 2,000 people. They saw who it was, and here they, boy, trying to turn that car over. I laid on the horn, went right down the sidewalk, just like in the cartoons. We're diving out of the way. And finally we saw a spot where there was a couple cars, you know, one had left, and I could get out there and boom, hit the street, and away we went. But that kind of heat, I don't think you'll see anymore, and I think that's a good thing. Because, you know, a lot of people, you have to be very, very careful. You still have to watch yourself and be careful, but folks aren't quite as aggressive maybe as they used to be. The year with, the 4 or 5 years I spent with Roddy, we had a lot of trouble getting out a lot of places. West Palm Beach, one night I backed the car up. The only cop who come out to help us, I ran over his foot. Everybody else got out of the way. In Rochester, New York, one night, me and Roddy's in the ring, and Hogan and Snook, I think, beat us 2 straight falls. And they left before we did, which was a mistake. And we had to fight our way back, but they had thrown so much beer and Coke and ice and shit all over the floor that we're walking back, but the cops had all ran up and hid under the bleachers. And I asked Roddy, I said, you want to stay in the ring? I said, only so many can get in here. Or do you want to go? He says, let's go. I said, well, let's go then. And we started walking back through there. Right when we got pretty close to the door, there was this guy, had to be, he looked like he was 9 or 10 foot tall, but probably 7 foot tall, weighed 400 or 500 pounds. Was coming from this side, and there was 4 guys coming from this side. So I'm looking, I said, Roddy, keep walking, I'm going to stop for a second. And I stopped, and that big guy drew his arm back and hit that wet floor and just went right between me and Roddy, took the other 4 guys out, and boom, we were in the door. Told the cops, thanks. But, you know, they don't have to go through that anymore. And like I say, that's a good thing, because that's, you know, when you're doing that, I can understand why we probably drank a little too much beer. Oh, made another one.
How often have you kept in touch with Piper?
I talk to him probably once a month, maybe. He's, you know, pretty much the only guy that I still talk to. He's talked to Valentine once in a while, but I talk to Roddy maybe on a regular basis, if you could call it that. I was with him last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, him and Orndorff had a great time. Seeing them guys, jeez. Terry Funk and his brother, they both got little ponytails. I told Terry, I said, I wouldn't have that ponytail. Why is that, Bobby? I said, because I was helping a buddy of mine out at a bar. I was bouncing for him. I said, some guy trying to start a fight. And I said, he had one of them ponytails. I told him, you know, stop The guy said okay, and he left. And as I come back around, he's right back there on the same people. Said, I told you. Go fuck yourself. I snatched that ponytail and shot my arm up as high as I could. He's walking out of the bar on his little tippy toes. Tears rolling down his face. I said, yeah, you're a tough guy. But anyway, I wouldn't have one of them ponytails because that had to hurt. The last time I went to Puerto Rico, they told me they were going to build me up to work with Carlos on the big Thanksgiving show. And my first night down there, they got me with Ronnie Garvin. They go, well, we want to get Ronnie over. I said, no. And I go, what do you mean, no? I said, that wasn't the deal. I said, if you told me that before I came, I'd be more than happy to. Ronnie's a very good friend of mine. But the answer is no. So anyway, they go and they send 4 or 5 different people over, and I just kept telling them no. And they finally send the big boss. This was after Brody, too, so guys were sitting there looking, boy, fuck, man, I don't care, and I really don't, and wouldn't. Matter of fact, some bitch wanted to try to get a piece of me. I'd have said, fine, let's go. But anyway, they send back this guy sitting, he comes in his suit, and we have to get Ronnie Garvin over. I said, okay, you really want to get Garvin over? And he goes, yes, we want to get Garvin over. I said, you really want to get Garvin over? And he goes, yes. And I go, you work with him. Then we went out and worked at DQ. But that's the last time I went to Puerto Rico, and some bitches paid me off in $5 bills. You want a cash or check? I'll take the cash. And they paid me off in $5 bills. I guess 200 of them. But anyway, I thought that was rather petty of them. I mean, I don't want to. Five's that big around.
There was a story of that you had to stop working for one company in Japan after you ran into a Yakuza boss in the stands. Do you have any memories of that incident?
No, this was in a bar. This was Chris Adams was arm wrestling 3 Japs at the same time on a glass table. And they went through the glass table, sliced. Chris's arm was bad. And I went up to the bar and said, we need to call a doctor. Of course, they don't speak Japanese. Kyushu. He was on the island of Kyushu. And so anyway, here comes this guy with 2 guys walking behind him. And I go, we need to get a doctor for Chris Adams. And they go, oh, he's a promoter. Well, I didn't know they meant promoter of the wrestling show, which he turned out to be. But he also owned a bar. But anyway, he laughed, and I said, no, it's not funny. We need, and about that time, one of his guys standing behind him punched me right in the eye. And I just, I knocked shit out of all 3 of them. Broke one's jaw, give one a hernia, and I give one whiplash. So they all had to go to the hospital. The guy I gave the hernia to tried to grab a cop's gun, and I kicked him in the balls. That's what gave him the hernia. But anyway, when we went, no, I still work for the same company. It's just when we went back to Japan, I had to stay, and this was horrible. I had to stay in Osaka for 3 days while they would go make their run. Now, you would think that would be a horrible thing, but it really wasn't. Osaka is a pretty cool town. And I just had the time of my life. And they'd leave one guy with me to take me around and do everything. But I couldn't go back to Kyushu. Still can't, as far as I know. And don't wanna.
One other thing maybe you could fill in the gaps here. I heard that someone asked you to put over one of the Von Erichs.
In Japan?
Was it in Japan?
Well, see, now, here's how this shit gets started. Okay, I'm always the bad guy, but here's the problem. And I didn't refuse. Don Kernodle and myself won that World Tag Team tournament in Greensboro, Charlotte, wherever it was. The Von Erichs would not lose to us. said their daddy told them not to lose. So they ended up getting disqualified. So now it's me and Murdoch in the finals of the big tournament in Japan. And I told the little Japanese guy that no, I'm not going to pit him over. Because my daddy told me not to lose to him in Tokyo. That I said, if he thinks he can beat me, then let him beat me. I said, it's no big deal. If he can beat me, then he wins. They look at Murdoch. Murdoch goes, nope, I'm with him. So then we go to the ring, and me and Murdoch are down there waiting, and 2-3 minutes goes by. All of a sudden, here comes two little Japs. Von Erichs wouldn't even come to the ring. Now, believe me, I have beat a lot of guys and not hurt them. I just am that good. I can beat you without hurting you. And I wouldn't hurt either one of them, of Fritz's boys. I mean, I really wouldn't have. But it was just, I mean, God, if someone sent that over to me, you'd have to hold my ass back. I'd have been in the ring now waiting for it. And that was so funny. Me and Murdoch are looking at each other, and here they come. God damn, boy. And all of a sudden, it's two little Japs tiptoeing out to the ring. They're afraid we were going to kill them, I guess. Hell, I probably put them over. I don't know. Oh, God.
Well, another reason I brought up Puerto Rico is because you were talking about a lot of times in the States, people getting very passionate, but Puerto Rican fans are very passionate too.
Geez.
So I don't know if you have any stories of...
No, I only worked down there a couple times. Once with Guard, then I think once just... I was real young in my career, and they brought me down for a show or something. But there was mesh over the ring. Because they'd throw whiskey bottles, beer bottles, rocks. By the end of the night, that mesh would be hanging. They were passionate. That's a little too passionate. The Latino. Yeah, they have a good time over there, the fans do. But I don't know if it's still like that or not. I would think it probably isn't, but then again, that's pretty close to third world. They might not have come around as quick as the folks in the States. Whew, boy, I'm telling you.
Do you think we'll ever see the wrestling business, maybe not in the full territorial system, but do you ever think there'll be more than one or maybe two major players in the industry?
Well, there's supposed to be another one now, isn't there?
Well, WWE obviously is what it is, and then there's TNA.
TNA, right. I've watched a couple minutes of it, here and there. I think it's a great place for folks to go between their stardom in the WWE and where I'm sitting. That's a good place to go, I think. But I get the impression, when I watch it, it reminds me of Atlanta TV in the 70s.
How so?
Just the look, how it's set up and everything, and they got plenty of cameras, I guess, to where we probably didn't have that many cameras, but it just, the production is just not, you look at Vince's show and you look at this show, it's like night and day. No comparison. The production, I think, is the thing. Besides the fact that they've got the horses in the WWE, but I still think that their production could be a lot better. But you're not going to do, they've done that over a lifetime up there. And everything grows, and they keep getting better, and better, to where TNA, you know, I don't really understand. Why did they go Monday nights against Vince? That was probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen anybody do in my life who wants to be successful. Did they actually think they could beat Raw? You know what I'm saying? I don't know where they're coming from. And then they've got their big... It's like a cluster. And it's just not coming together. Now maybe someday it will. And if it does, great. Because the more places you got to work, the more guys will be working, more people. Obama will be happy. There'll be more jobs. The best would mean, like, really the worst would be Fuji.
Fuji?
Yeah. We won't even get into some of the things he would do. Although, I'll just give you one.
Okay.
And this has to do with sleeping pills, not drugs. But there was a guy named Outback Jack. You remember Outback Jack?
Sure.
Bulldogs were pretty good ribbers, too. And unfortunately, Outback ran into all these guys in the same night. But me and Morocco and Fuji are sitting there minding our own business, drinking some brewski, waiting to go to dinner. And Outback Jack come over and he slammed his beer down on the table and he goes, "I'm going to drink you blokes under the table." And he gets up and goes to the bathroom. Well, should have took his beer with him. Oh, well, we won't name any names. He comes back and he drinks that beer and gets another one halfway through, head on the table out. So me and Don took him up to his room, opened the door for him, laid him down in his bed, and left. As we were leaving, Davey Boy and Dynamite was walking down the hall, and they go, "Oh, is that Outback Jackson? Yeah, leave the door open." "Sure." So anyway, they superglued his Australian hat to the top of his head, cut all his clothes, pants off here, pants off here. I don't know what else. Oh, they cut the alligator off the back of his jacket. Just all kinds of stuff. It's horrible what they did to this guy, although he asked for it. But later that night, as we were sitting there eating, he gets up and comes back down naked, right in the restaurant. And Hercules Hernandez, God bless him, so took him back up, wouldn't let the cops arrest him. "I'll take care of him, I'll take care of him." But the next night, I think him and I were the only two guys who had to go to Syracuse, New York. Everyone else stayed on the West Coast. And I was sitting in the very end locker room talking to Sika. And Outback came in and he goes through every... It's one of them things where they got the hallway and then the little rooms, you know, your locker rooms are the little rooms off the hallway. He went to every little room, threatening guys and I said, "Nobody's here that was out there last night but me." I said, "I didn't do nothing." He come back down and stuck his head in there and then Sika set his ass straight. But you know, that Fuji, you didn't want to mess with Fuji. Fuji would get you. You'd pick up your bag and you'd have a handful of shit because he was stuck it under. Oh no, you didn't want to mess with Fuji.
Of women in wrestling today, it's just, you know, back when Bob Orton
They are gorgeous.
So you're definitely, you approve of the use of women?
Oh hell, I think they work hard.
Because they used them like midgets almost back you know.
Well, they just bring them in once in a while, and they were kind of a novelty. Although, I mean, I don't think you'd call Moolah a midget if she was standing in front of you.
No, I mean, they use them as a novelty.
She'd do the same thing she'd do to me. She'd knock you on your ass. But, yeah, they were like a novelty. You wouldn't see them maybe once, twice a year. But now, you know, they're incorporated every week, and And them girls, you know, they put on a good show too, and they're really, really easy to look at.
They are. All right, I'll let you end on. You need to give us your best Andre the Giant story.
Andre. Well, I've already told that one. One night, we're flying to Winnipeg, and we're playing cribbage. He told me if I beat him, I could suplex him. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Then we get in the ring and he goes suplex. I just laughed. Yeah, right. I think he was kidding. Andre, geez, he was just what a polite gentleman he was to be. The only guy I don't think he cared too much for was the Iron Sheik. And boy, whenever they wrestled against each other, the Sheik following around like a little puppy dog. Oh, Mr. Giant. And then he'd go out and Andre would just knock the hell out of him.
Why do you think he didn't like the Sheik?
I have no idea. No idea. There was something, maybe something with France and Iran. I don't know. But for some reason, he just didn't like the Sheik. He just didn't like him. But no, Andre was a hell of a guy. He dated my little sister for years. No, she never told me.
She never told you? Well, what would you do about it? I mean, what could you do? What could you really do about it?
Well, no, I wanted to know. She just wouldn't tell me. Same thing you want to know. No, Andre was a hell of a guy. Class act. Whew. Sure hate to see him go. There's another guy. What? Jeez. Of course, I guess with that gigantism, he lived a little longer than normal. When somebody has that I guess it's a disease, or since you're born with it, maybe it's not. I don't know, but he lived longer than the average guy with that would.
I lied. I had one more person I wanted to ask you about. Just Adrian Adonis.
Oh God. Well, we had a hell of a match in San Antonio for Joe Blanchard. When I won about 45 minutes. World title match, I think. I think I had Funk in the Simla and Adrian. But anyway, Adrian would, God, what a talent. And when I first met him, he probably only weighed 225, 230. And then seeing him up here, God, he had to weigh close to 400 pounds. Gosh, and could still move like a lightweight. Another guy like that was that Paul Pershman, Buddy Rose.
Okay.
Boy, that guy moved like he weighed 180 pounds and 400. I don't know how they did it. But yeah, that was really shocking about Adrian. Shoot, I was getting ready to go to Japan the next week, I think, and all of a sudden get the call that he got killed in that car wreck. Sure miss some of them guys. Life goes on.
The following DVD presentation was originally produced for Highspots TV, your online home for the best shoot interviews, matches, and original content. Highspots TV. The future is now.